Hey everybody, it's Corey from Thought Soldiers. So as you can hear, I am sick. I have been sick for the past week as my body and my spirit and everything is going through a lot of shifts and transitions right now. But I figured I'd come on and at least create something. And this is what this video is about creation. The art form that is birthing a new reality. The art form that is being the master of your thoughts and your emotions in order to create the reality that you want, which is just an extension of you and what you are projecting out through your stargate, through your portal of your heart. I found recently that there has been a lot of distortion processing and shifting as we are on a trajectory, a fast track trajectory to 2020. And the realities that we want to give birth to. Also, the recognition is that our distortions are a veil or an overlay that disconnects us from the purity of who we are and the purity of the embodiment of the creation that we project out into this world. And so it seems to be a very, at least for me, has been a very monumentous time in the search, the quest of the Holy Grail within, which is layered with so much stuff and bogged down, weighed down with so much that I chose to incarnate onto this representation in order to sift through to find the magic of what is through the alchemical process of releasing and transforming. And the way that I transform when I'm shifting out distortions is I find I need to create something of it. That is how I alchemize the experience. Since I am a creator being in a body, I have to create something with it, especially since I'm trying to birth a new reality through intentions, through my thoughts, through my emotions, through the projection of my heart and living that heart-centered experience. I find that sometimes I just need to come on and to create. And so that's what I'm doing here today. It was talking about the extension of ourselves and the art form that is creation, and how so many times when we are recognizing that we are creator beings in a body, sometimes we feel like our creations aren't good enough because it's not the masterpiece of like the Picasso or the Van Gogh. When we look at art in the forms of the self-expression through drawing, painting, music, so on and so forth. And this is where we need to release judgment on the creation that we're creating and recognizing that even us sharing our truth is a form of creation, because we are now creating the potentiality for someone else to come up and to speak their truth. This is the job of the way shower. The way shower is to embody and to take the lead and to let the collective that resonates with that path follow along so we can land with the new collective, especially as we are all transitioning out of old paradigms, old relationships, as we were talking, not just personal relationships like romantic, but the friendships and the things like this. So as we are shifting collectives, it's really important to really, speak our truth authentically, and then to let us resonate and fall into that collective which we seek through our intentional creation. And this is why owning the art of your soul and owning the imprint that is you is important, and not trying to make a comparison to try to be someone else's imprint or why your imprint isn't good enough. That is a distortion overlay that is disconnecting you, separating you from the beauty that is you and the magic that is you. And this is why it's important to really harness and own who you are and the reality in which you wish to create through intentions and through discovering your light and discovering your truth. And while there is a time to shift through the distortions, we find as we step into multidimensionality that it is, and we are still unlayering all this stuff. The shadow work, the distortion shedding, and the light work, which it's all light work, but when I'm talking about the process of creation, the process of thriving and living in joy, and the distortion shedding coexist on the same plane and happen simultaneously. And this is what happens when we go quantum, or we start to step into the multidimensional experiences. Before, we were living in a linear time format, which meant that, I'll do the shadow work and then you know, I will exist and play. Or I will play and then I'll do the shadow work later. Well, what starts to happen is we are discovering the balance of the infinite being that we are. We start to step into the recognition that it all happens simultaneously. As we are shedding, we are also embodying at the same time. We are living across multiple realms at the same time, and as we are processing and going through this process of creation, we learn to shift out the distortions with ease, with grace, with flow, and enjoy. How do we do that? Well, we do that in whichever process calls to us. As we start to integrate our aspects and we start to really listen to our light body and listen to that voice within, that voice will direct us in the way, shape, or form that will best serve you to shift out that distortion. So for me recently, as there's been a lot of timeline collapse, a lot of past life stuff coming up to the surface, more karma unveiling, also really having to fine-tune the details of my existence so I can really shape my thought forms and really shape my intentions to the best of my ability and hone in on my mastery of alchemy. I found that I'm getting called more and more to do things in order to shift this stuff out. So a lot of what I've been bogged down by is the fact that there's so much programming, there's so much processing and unveiling of layers and layers as I'm releasing the veil through the purification systems I work with, as well as calling that forward to release the veil on the truth of what's been going on for eons with the human civilization and the downloads and the stuff I've been getting, is that it's the when am I gonna start to see tangible results towards the work that I'm doing, that I'm projecting out into my reality, so I can start to feel like this is worth something, especially when I start to get stuck up in the doubt and now right there I'm gonna catch that. You see how that started to get very heady and very right there, that's the key moment that the light body steps in and goes, shut it off, go do something. So that's when I listen and I go, what can I do today? What action steps can I take towards shifting out this distortion with ease versus sitting there and sulking it and maximizing this and thus recalling it into my reality as it is leaving my system? Well, for me, it's just to go out into nature. So as you know, I just moved into this beautiful apartment and we have a pond right in the back where I get a call to something just says, go outside. Go check the mail. And I go, okay, well, I'm gonna go. And I start to get into motion. And as soon as I step into motion, I start taking those action steps, everything starts to come together. Okay, go get the mail, go get a cup of coffee, now go down to the pond. And I go down to the pond and I get this insight. This is what you can do. Da, 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 and all of a sudden I'm unpacking this download and then I come back and I hit record. That's the solution. So it's not that I knew intuitively that when I get up and do this, I'm going to receive all this insight. It was that little call of just get up and get moving, alchemize this, create something out of the distortion that you just worked through. So this is how I alchemize the process, because I found too that my words are encoded. They're activations within itself. My words are birthing a new reality. So as I am speaking this into existence, as you are receiving these codes and you're opening up, what starts to happen actually too is that I'm now unlocking latent parts within you in order to, you see how this works, is that this is the process of creation. We all hold codes and light within, and as we start to speak this into reality in whatever way, shape, or form that may be for you, whether it be through your hands, through energy work, through writing, whatever, it's all encoded, and this now provides the opportunity to activate your quantum abilities in order to start speaking your reality into your existence, and this is how it flows, this is how we birth this whole experience. And a lot of this it has to do with full embodiment of the crystalline structures that are available here on planet Earth. And so for me, that is connecting to the crystalline grid multiple times a day. As a distortion is popping up, I connect to the crystalline grid and I let those energies work in my favor to shift that out. I encompass myself in white light and I let that purification of source work through me to extinguish and to dissolve everything that is working on, because I want to create a reality of unification, and the separation that I see on the outside is the separation I hold within. It is within and without. So when I'm going through these spells and these phases of feeling disconnected from the world or feeling out of place, whatever, I have to recognize that I go within and I fix that separation within, and then I go out and I see how the reflection adjusts. Or I create, because that's what I am. I am a creator being. When I take back my sovereignty and I decide that there is going to be no hierarchy or order that is controlling me anymore, I now own a responsibility to create a unified, loving, compassionate experience through the words that I speak, through the thoughts that I harness, and through the action steps I take throughout the day. Am I showing compassion to another individual? Am I showing compassion to myself? Am I showing compassion to Gaia? Am I showing compassion to the darkness in which we are quote unquote fighting? I know this is getting jumbled and all over the place, but this is what starts to happen when we go quantum. It's non-linear. If this is jumping all over the place for you, this is because you're still living in a linear construct, which it is very hard to escape completely. But there are things packed in here that are going to be able to activate you and be able to step in fully into harnessing your abilities that are you in the I am presence and that higher aspect. So the creation, the art form that you are creating through your words and through your thoughts is an expression of you. We start to recognize when we go quantum and recover all of our lost aspects that everything that we were looking up to, we are actually looking eye to eye with, because it is just an aspect within that we are holding within. That is just us. This is the integration of the light body. This is the integration of all aspects and the recognition that I am source. I am a reflection of source. And really harnessing that frequency as we are unlocking those latent parts of our DNA. And so back to the distortion shedding. What reasonable action steps can you take on a day-to-day basis when you start to get up there, or you start to see there's a lot purging and releasing, in order to ease the process and to enjoy the process? Because as some of us are, transmuters for the collective, and as some of us are doing our own bloodline work, our own really deep embedded encodements of things within our bones, within our cellular structure, within our muscles, and that experience gets painful and heavy and has been drawn out for a long time, first off, we have to look at, where am I resisting change? Where am I not easing into the process of the release? Also, too, when we have, for me, 31 years of programming embedded within me through everything I've gone through, plus past life imprints and going above and beyond, it's not an overnight process, but there's a way to enjoy the process, and to understand what's going on by removing the expectation of the when and going, where am I not trusting the process? Where am I not living in faith that this is working out for not only the highest good of myself, but the highest good of everyone involved, which is the collective experience and the collective hologram, as we seek to ascend into the best versions of ourselves. And as we are noticing too, as a lot of us land in 5D, there's still a lot of distortion. There was this heavy promise that was really, I think, over-glorified by many, that 5D was going to be perfect. And as we now, let's go multidimensional here. Perfection. Everything is perfect. The dark, the light, the distortion, the viewpoint, the skewed viewpoint, it's all correct. It all just is, right? Well, we came up with the perception of this extremely blissful 5D experience. Well, what 5D experience are you experiencing? Are you still shifting out a lot of distortion? Did you step into 5D with some muddy shoes? A lot of us did. And so we're all tracking that mud. And yeah, even though we didn't quote unquote create the mud, the programmings and the distortions existed before we projected down into here in this embodiment, in this lifetime, and even way, way before. It's our responsibility to clean that mud off. It is our responsibility to take responsibility of our creation. This is all just a projection of us, a personal projection alongside a collective projection, and it is up to us to clean our shoes, to wipe off the mud. And this is why we choose to elevate our vibration and step into and do the work so we can get up to the next level, see how it is, and we can just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep embodying more source and keep embodying more and keep projecting out and then seeing what happens. And this is conscious creation. Conscious creation is being consistently mindful of the ingestion and what we are putting out as well. So if you are ingesting garbage when it comes down to media, when it comes down to food, when it comes down to whatever it is in your environment that you are taking in and then you are putting back out, that it's our responsibility to be mindful of that, because all of that starts to adjust our thought forms. It adjusts our mood. It adjusts our behavior. There are layers to this. It's all interconnected. And as we are all working grid systems, we all anchor a point in the crystalline grid, and we all anchor a huge point into the New Earth process. It is our responsibility to be extremely mindful of what we're ingesting as we are anchoring this stuff in. And if it is out of alignment with unity, if it is living in separation, if it is still upholding a program, if it is still upholding some form of enslavement, if it is still upholding some sort of implant technology, we have to take responsibility for that and remove it as quick as possible. There are some things that, are what I would call old paradigm things that I still latch onto, certain forms of music, things of that nature. And I have to recognize, and this is just my personal journey, that stuff is not helping me to consciously create a reality of love, compassion, joy, and unification. It is still feeding a level of separation. It is still feeding a level of ... And this is where that ingestion is key, because what I take in, I'm also putting out. That affects my frequency, that affects my creations, and that also affects what I embody. And it's getting to be a little bit like, it feels a little neurotic at times to be like, oh, is this... Well, it's because I was unconscious for so long. I was unaware for so long of everything going on, that once we remove that veil, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Once we remove that veil and we start to see clearly, honestly, of what is existing around us, we do become a little bit neurotic, because a lot of it to me is like solving a puzzle box. Like, you unlock one door and it unlocks another door and it's like the labyrinth. It's a maze. It's a never-ending maze, what we would call the rabbit hole. But what we learn is, we learn that we may not understand all of it right now, but the pieces are assimilating and we are doing the work. Our soul knows. Our soul knows what's going on. And our soul, when we start to embody our higher self more by clearing out those distortions and anchoring it in more, it starts to take the wheel because it knows. The human doesn't, but our multidimensional aspects know. Our higher self knows. Our team knows. Our light body knows. And so this is where we relinquish control of the knowing, the intellectual knowing, and we live in the frequency and in the heart. Am I living in the frequency? Am I living in the heart right now? Or am I trying to figure it out? And I say this because this is what has been a struggle for me, especially in the masculine embodiment, which is the intellect, which is all the air frequency, which is all the, and especially being an observer, and especially, getting into that obsessive mindset of figuring it out. There's a lot that I won't understand right now, but in time I will. And this is where I have to relinquish that control of just making sure that I'm taking the action steps every single day towards embodying the truth that I am seeking, embodying the light and the love that is within, but also being mindful of what I'm projecting out through my thought process, what I'm projecting out through my words, what I'm projecting in my spelling, in order to create a compassionate, loving, unified, harmonious experience that we are all working so hard towards anchoring in, and what other people have been anchoring in for years and years and years and years. And it is a responsibility that I have in order to hold up that point of the grid and to hold my gate open with purity and love, and to make sure that I am being mindful of what's coming in my gate and what's coming in my spectrum, and whether or not that frequency is in a unified experience or in a separative experience, or if we're still upholding some agenda that we're trying to relinquish through compassion and unconditional love. And so this is creation. This is what creation is. So much I started to view that art was the painting, it was the writing, it was and I'm pointing at my guitar, it's the music. Well, the music of the universe and the music of this world is art, and my intentional creation of the reality in which I choose to birth through my higher mind and through my heart, that is art. Just like I am an art piece, this entire reality is just an extension of me. And so this is where I connect to that. I connect to the world around me by going outside into nature and unifying that aspect. And I connect with the stars, and I connect with the moon, and I connect with the sun. I connect with other galaxies. I connect with other humans. This is where I create this in order to create this connection, to unify, to call in my lost aspects, and to remember who I am through the I am presence. That I am just an embodiment of source. And it's a beautiful experience. It's a little wild, and it's a little trippy and twisty, as it's been recently. But this is what happens. We get all twisted up to unravel and to retwist it, right? So we get all twisted up in order to unravel and then to retwist it. It's this interesting process of a new form of entanglement. It's not the dark quantum entanglement, but it is literally sewing together the fabric of space and time in order to create these realities in which we so wish to speak, and to take these timelines out from all over the cosmos and all over time and space that exist all in the now presence, and anchoring them all into this better version, best version of Earth, that is not only going to ascend humanity now, but is going to ascend the rest of the galaxy. It's going to ascend this portion of the universe, and that gets reflected out into the golden ratio, the spiral, the fractal that is the universe. Because the ascension process on Gaia is important, because the ascension here provides the ascension for everyone else. As the guides work with us, the guides ascend. As we ascend, everything else does. So it's all a part of the orchestration, the art form that is reality creation, the art form that is ascension, the art form that is raising the frequency of Gaia, and doing my best to uphold that on a day-to-day basis, and being mindful of what I embody. So there's a little flow on creation. Yeah, that was just a little flow on creation. Once again, thank you everyone for the continued support. Sessions are completely wide open. Definitely, if you need any sort of support, reach out to me. A few people have reached out, and I appreciate it. And I'm also extremely mindful now of who I share my energy with and who I share my presence with. And so if you do reach out, and it's a very short-lived experience, no judgment, it's just me using my discernment in order to be of service to anyone, but also to make sure that my energy and my vibration is not affected by anything externally, and being extremely mindful of what I choose to let into my spectrum. So just a little cliff note there for what's going on. But if you need any support, any guidance, or would like to book a session, my calendar link is in the description box. Much love and respect to everybody out in the Webiverse. I hope you're all doing amazing. I hope you're shifting well. I hope you are getting ready for the 1111 portal and really dissolving what you can in order to sink into that trajectory of 2020. But I want to remind people that if we are expecting some miracle to happen in 2020, create the miracle now. 2020 exists right now. All of the stuff that you are seeking for in the 2020 Ascension is available right now. So build it now, create it now, pull it in now, dissolve what you can now. Play now, enjoy now, create now. If we still seek forward to some external event or external time frame to really get the ball rolling, we're quantum. It's all now. So embody it now, create it now, believe now, change now, and you will see everything start to unfold in the future. So just remember, the future is now. We're quantum, baby. All right, much love and respect to everybody out in the Webiverse, and I will see you on the other side. Namaste.